Death is promised. It is the only thing that's promised to mankind. It is the only thing that's promised to men, women, children, animals, trees, the earth. One day you will die. And that's the truth. And thinking about that, especially as a younger person, is difficult sometimes, right? It's difficult, and it makes me a bit solemn thinking about it, because I wouldn't like to say I'm scared of dying. I wouldn't characterize it as fear. But people tend to fear the unknown. People tend to fear what's uncertain. So I think regardless of what one might say, there's a deep-seated fear, or at least an anxiety about the fact that death is true. But for just a moment, get solemn with me. Think for a second, and let us explore the stark reality of death. One day you will die. You will cease to exist, and all that you've known, loved, cared for, wanted, desired, achieved will not matter. And especially if you're young, I want you to think about that really hard. That one day you will die. And that is the only thing that's promised to you, right? You have ambitions and goals and dreams. But guess what? There are many other people who have died with ambitions, with goals, with dreams. This thing that you're living right now is a gift. You don't have to be alive. And many of you out there have stories where you've come this close to death, and yet you're here. I've had those stories many times where I could have died, right? And in reality, everyone could always die at any time, because your heart could just fail all of a sudden. You could develop a very, very vicious illness all of a sudden. Any of these things could happen, but they don't. Not always. And that's the beauty of life. You see, we have this opportunity, and it's within our reach. We can influence the world. We can change our life. We have energy. We have strength. I have the ability to speak, to move, to look, to breathe. And it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. I want you to think about that, especially if you're young, and understand the gift that this is, and how much you could change your life and the world, and develop and grow and reach and grab and get and provide and make and pursue and love passionately until death, right? Because one day you will die, and that is promised. You see, the reason I brought this up, and the reason I thought this up, was because I was thinking of all these goals that I have, and all the processes that I'm going through, you know, growing up, becoming older, trying to grow in wisdom and strength and valor, so to speak. And the only fact of life is that you will die, which is kind of ironic, right? No, it's not the only fact, but it's one of the very real, potent facts that you cannot get away from. And I want that to motivate you. I want you to use that as a motivator. Because if you died tonight and you had, say, a flashback of all you've done, all you've experienced, all you've lived, and you think of all the moments you've wasted, all the experiences and opportunities you didn't take advantage of, all the gifts that you've wasted, right? All the efforts people have made for your good, that you squandered, that you belittled, and you'll be sad, guaranteed. No matter how tough you think you are, when you're met with death, and you look back on your life, there will be regrets. There will be regrets. Now you could say, oh, I don't have regrets. BS. Stop fooling yourself, bro. Let's be wise for a second. Gosh darn it. Let's think about the fact that this will all end one day. Now, we've gotten out of that depressing phase. We're done talking about the sadness of it. Let's talk about how we can use that to better ourselves. One day you will die. You have a family. You have people who love you. You love other people. There are things you want to achieve. You don't know when you're going to die, right? Life is serious. It is literally life or death in life. You're going to die. So you're in this, whether you like it or not, you're here, right? You are here. Now, there are things you care about. There are things you want to achieve. There are people who care about you. There are people who are depending on you, which might be even more weighty, depending on the type of person you are. So life is real. And there are things you have to pay attention to. Death is promised. So that means life is urgent to some degree. There are things you have to do. You can't lose with certain things. There are people depending on you. There's some things you simply must achieve, especially when you were young and strong. Right? Young man, I call upon you because you're strong. There's a reason for that verse. Death is promised.